We've been reading Moses for thousands of years and still missing one of the most controversial moments God ever defended. The baby in the river, the burning bush, the Red Sea, Mount Sinai, the reluctant leader, the voice behind the Exodus. His life isn't just a story. For billions, it defines what it means to be called by God. But here's what most people miss. What if Moses never spoke this prophecy, but lived it inside his own family? Because Scripture says something unexpected. Moses' own brother and sister, Aaron and Miriam, rise against him. Their reason? His marriage to a Cushite woman. On the surface, it looks like jealousy, a power struggle dressed as morality. But the text suggests something deeper. This wasn't random conflict, it was intentional. Something was being revealed. Moses begins under a death sentence. Pharaoh orders every Hebrew boy killed. So his mother places him in a basket and sends him into the Nile. The child marked for death is raised in Pharaoh's house, not hidden, elevated, protected inside the system meant to erase him. He is trained in Egypt's wisdom, the greatest empire of the ancient world. Acts calls him powerful in speech and action. Josephus preserves traditions of military leadership. By every standard, Moses is royalty. Then everything collapses. He kills an Egyptian, becomes a fugitive, runs into the wilderness. The palace disappears. Silence takes over. The prince becomes a shepherd. 40 years vanish. And in that silence, God reshapes him. He learns humility. He learns patience. He learns to listen. And there, his first family begins. In Midian, Moses meets Zipporah. He defends her family, is welcomed in, marries her. No controversy, no resistance. She stands with him from the beginning, even saving his life on the way back to Egypt. For decades, silence. No objection, no conflict. Which makes what happens next unavoidable, because suddenly a rebellion emerges, and it is about a wife. Numbers 12:1 says, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had married. Not politics, not doctrine, his wife. Then the deeper issue appears. Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? That's the real conflict, authority. But the trigger is the marriage. Cush refers to a region south of Egypt, modern Sudan and Ethiopia. In ancient Hebrew, Cush doesn't just represent a location. It symbolizes the ends of the earth. So the question becomes, why now? Zipporah had been there for 40 years. No recorded conflict. So why sudden outrage? Some argue Cushite refers to Zipporah, but Midianites and Cushites are consistently distinct in ancient records. And timing matters. This conflict feels immediate. Josephus preserves a tradition that Moses, as an Egyptian commander, campaigned in Cush years earlier. A princess saw him and offered an alliance. He married her, and the city fell. Whether scripture or tradition, it explains a second household reality, a visible shift that arrived only when it became undeniable. God does not ignore it. Come out, you three. The cloud descends. God draws a line. With him I speak face to face. Why were you not afraid? Silence. Aaron turns. Miriam is changed, leprous white as snow. The reversal is exact. In spiritual metaphysics, this is the result of Lashon Hara, the evil tongue. Miriam used skin color as a weapon, so God manifested her spiritual state on her own skin. She judged the outsider for her darkness, so God made Miriam colorless. The Cushite woman remains untouched. Miriam becomes the outsider. This was not just about Moses. It was about what God was revealing through him. Miriam's logic sounds protective. Preserve purity, maintain boundaries. But the text reveals that this was not only separation, it is redrawing belonging. This becomes a signal, a direction beyond lineage, a widening of belonging. A Hebrew leader, a Midianite wife, a Cushite identity inside the story. One household, one unfolding plan. Her failure wasn't rebellion, it was perception. She saw difference as danger. She saw the outsider as a threat. But the narrative shows something else. Expansion, not a narrowing of the promise, but a widening. As we look at the world in 2026, who still looks like an outsider to us? Are we resisting what God is currently building? This was not just a family conflict. It was a revelation. The marriage of Moses becomes a statement. God's plan is bigger than expectation. The promise: there are no permanent outsiders in divine grace. Background, ethnicity, history, none of it limits access. God does not merely tolerate the outsider, He defends them. But the warning remains. When humans draw lines God has erased, they risk opposing what He is already doing. The real question is not what Miriam saw. It is whether we still see the same way.